Right now, we are following some breaking news. A man is dead after an officer-involved shooting during a traffic stop in St. Charles.
And our Sydney stalwart just arrived to the scene minutes ago in Weldon Springs. And Sydney, what can you tell us? What are you learning?
Well, Michelle and Rennie, you're right. We just arrived here just a couple of moments ago. We do know that one man is dead after he was shot by police here in Weldon Spring. They say that man was armed at the time. Now, all of this happened in the area that we're at right now. We're at Seton Top Road near Technology Drive. I want to show you the scene that's still pretty active behind me. There's still police presence here, though I'm told they're about to wrap up. And just far beyond this pole here on this side area to the road, we can see that investigators have marked several evidence markers down there on the ground as well. Now, we are joined this morning by Corporal Barry Bayless with the St. Charles County Sheriff's Department. Hello, Corporal Bayless. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened? All of this started around 12:40 this morning, is that right?
Correct. It was about 12:35 when the incident initially started. Two of our officers were sitting nearby in the driveway entrance of a business that was closed at the time when they were approached by the suspect vehicle. The suspect vehicle, one of the driver, there were two individuals, a driver and a passenger. The driver began to engage the officers in conversation. The officers who had been in their vehicles stepped out and exited their vehicles for officer safety, just to give themselves a little bit more of a position there to converse with them. While they were talking, they identified the individuals. A few moments later, the passenger in the vehicle, a white male in his 40s, attempted to flee the scene on foot. He exited the vehicle, ran. There was a short foot pursuit that ensued. They apprehended the individual. There was a struggle. He was resisting our officers. The suspect then brandished a weapon. One of our officers pulled his firearm, engaged the suspect, fired at him, and shot him. First aid was rendered. Medical personnel arrived on the scene, transported him to the hospital, and he was pronounced a short time later at the hospital.
Now, has there been a firearm that's been recovered here at the scene?
That is correct. There was a firearm recovered at the scene as well.
Now, when these two individuals inside the car approached the officer, what sort of things were they discussing with the two officers?
They were asking directions. They're asking some questions about the area. They're actually leaving an area where the business is closed at this time. There should have been no traffic. There should have been nobody on that business lot. And so I think partially for the officer's safety as well as investigative purposes, the officers began to question them and ask them why they were there. And that, again, like I said, led to the passenger exiting the vehicle and attempting to flee the scene.
Now, at one point, the officers did ask the individuals for ID inside of the car. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And that is when that second passenger started to exit the vehicle?
Yes, it was a few minutes into the stop, and while they were IDing him, the passenger exited the vehicle.
Now, at any point, was this suspect fully apprehended by the police officers?
Not fully apprehended or in control. As I said, they were both in the vehicle at the time. While they were trying to identify him and still conversing with them, the passenger exited the vehicle. He attempted to flee on foot. It was a very short foot pursuit. The officers apprehended him, but there was a struggle that ensued while he resisted our officers, and that's when a weapon was produced, and then our officers engaged the suspect.
Okay, thank you so much, Corporal Bayless. Well, that's the latest that we have from the scene right now. We do know, like Corporal Bayless just mentioned, a firearm was recovered here at the scene. Just over my left shoulder, there's still marking evidence markers down at the ground. We're going to stay here and continue to get more information, and we'll bring you guys the very latest as soon as we get that. But for now, in Weldon Spring, I'm Sydney Stallworth, 5 on your side.
Thanks so much, Sydney. Of course, we are, like Sydney mentioned, going to stay on top of the story all morning long, on air and online. And once we learn new information about the shooting, we're going to bring it to you as soon as possible. Check in with Sydney throughout the morning as well.